Ever been lost in the woods? Now imagine those woods are full of angry barbarians, and you're a Roman general who just lost an empire. That's what happened to Varus, and his story is just the beginning. But this wasn't just any defeat. This was a massacre. 3 whole legions wiped out. The sound of Roman eagles crashing to the ground, echoing through history. You see, Rome had a little problem. They underestimated their enemies. A lot. And Rome wasn't the only empire to learn that lesson the hard way. From the deserts of the Middle East to the frozen wastelands of Russia, military disasters have a way of humbling even the mightiest of nations. Let's face it, sometimes history's biggest battles are lost long before anyone picks up a sword. So, get ready for epic fails, boneheaded decisions, and just a sprinkle of bad luck. We're diving deep into the top 5 military disasters that still make historians cringe. We're talking blunders so epic, they make you wonder, what were they thinking? Hit that subscribe button, because trust me, you do not want to miss these stories. And while you're at it, let me know in the comments, what do you think is the worst military blunder of all time? May the very memory of the legions be wiped out. Those words, spoken by Rome's emperor, give you a sense of how badly things went down in the Teutoburg forest. This wasn't just a loss, it was a national trauma for Rome. What happened out there that was so terrifying, so catastrophic, that even the emperor wanted to forget it ever happened? Meet this guy, Publius Quinctilius Varus, son-in-law to the emperor, governor of Germania, and arguably one of history's unluckiest generals. Varus was a classic Roman through and through. He believed in order, discipline, and the power of a well-placed legion. Problem was, he was about to walk into the one place where those rules meant nothing. And that's where this badass comes in, Arminius. See, Arminius wasn't your average barbarian chieftain. He'd actually been trained by the Romans, knew their tactics, their weaknesses. Talk about a double agent. But was he leading a rebellion to free his people? Or playing a much deeper game? Picture this. You're a Roman soldier, miles from home. It's cold, it's raining. The forest seems to close in around you. Then, wham! Attacks from the flanks, the shadows. You can't see the enemy, only hear them. Arrows raining down, screams. Like fighting ghosts, one soldier wrote, and for the next 3 days, those ghosts wouldn't let up. Trapped. That's what the Romans were, surrounded. Each day the attacks got worse. The mud was sucking them down, the rain never stopped. Supplies ran low, hope even lower. This wasn't a battle anymore, it was a slow death, and it was about to get even worse. Almost 20,000 Roman soldiers marched into Teutoburg, barely any came out. This wasn't just a military loss, it was a psychological scar that changed Rome forever. After Teutoburg, they would think twice before venturing too deep into those woods. Some defeats, you see, are so profound, they echo through history. So, we've seen how the Romans messed up in a chilly forest. Now crank up the heat, because we're headed to the Holy Land, 1187. It's the Crusades, baby. And things are about to get biblical, literally. The Crusader kingdoms were like that Jenga tower you built that's this close to collapsing, surrounded by enemies constantly fighting for survival. It's a miracle they lasted as long as they did. But how did it get to this point? Well, it all comes down to one man. This is Saladin, the Sultan of Egypt and Syria. Dude was a boss, not just militarily, but he was known for being chivalrous, even towards his enemies. A brilliant strategist, a devout Muslim, and a ruler admired even by those he conquered. Basically, the Crusaders' worst nightmare. July 1187. The sun is baking the desert. Think you can handle the heat? Well, the Crusaders were about to find out the hard way. Lured out by a clever trick, their army is miles from water, marching straight into a trap. Imagine the terror. Every step kicking up more dust, throats parched, the enemy waiting. Saladin's plan unfolds at the horns of Hattin, this barren hilltop. He surrounds the Crusaders, then lights the brush on fire. Smoke, heat, thirst. Saladin was playing 4D chess, while the Crusaders were stuck in checkers. This wasn't just a battle. It was an environmental beatdown. Crusaders defeated. King Guy captured. Jerusalem, the holy city, falls to Saladin. But here's the kicker. Saladin also captures the true cross, the most sacred relic in Christendom. Talk about adding insult to injury. Could this disaster have been avoided? Hit the comments and let me know what you think. Think you know the story of the Spanish Armada? Think again. 1588. Spain versus England. King versus Queen. A clash of empires. And things are about to get real stormy. This is Philip the son of Spain. Devout Catholic. King of a vast empire. And he's got some serious beef with England. They've messed with his ships. They've embraced Protestantism. He's seeing red. And he's ready to bring down the hammer. Time for a holy war, Spanish style. But across the channel, Queen Elizabeth I isn't exactly quaking in her boots. She knows England can't match Spain's navy blow for blow, so she plays a different game, rallying her people, turning Philip into the ultimate villain. Think nationalism meets 16th century propaganda. Brilliant. Here comes the Armada. Over 130 ships packed with soldiers, cannons. They even brought cows and chickens for fresh food. It's basically a floating Walmart designed to crush England. But here's the twist. The English ships are smaller, faster, and packing some serious firepower. David versus Goliath, naval style. At first it's a close fight. English ships darting around, harassing the Armada, using their cannons like snipers. Then, bam! The weather goes nuts. Storms batter the Armada. Ships are wrecked. Men are tossed into the icy waves. Imagine the terror, seasickness, storms, and the constant fear of being blown to bits. The once mighty Armada is now a broken, desperate fleet, limping home around Scotland, facing even more storms and hostile coasts. It's a nightmare. The Armada may have been battered by the weather, but its defeat had shockwaves. Spain was bankrupt. Its dreams of dominating Europe sunk. And England? Well, this was their launchpad. They became the new naval superpower, building the empire that would one day span the globe. So, was the Armada's defeat just bad luck? Or did it actually trigger England's rise? Think about that. They say Napoleon had a bit of an ego. Okay, a huge ego. In 1812, he decided to prove it by invading Russia with the largest army Europe had ever seen. Over 600,000 men, that's like Coachella, but with way more muskets. The ultimate flex, right? Well, hold your horses, because this gamble was about to backfire. Big time. This was the Grande Armée, a mix of nationalities, languages, all united under Napoleon's command. Veterans, fresh recruits, even a few women disguised as men, all hungry for glory. They'd conquered most of Europe, so Russia seemed like the next logical step. But here's the thing. Russia wasn't just another country. It was a different beast entirely. Russia, vast, frozen, and ready to swallow armies whole. They'd seen invaders before, and they had a secret weapon, General Winter. Napoleon, on the other hand, seemed to think a few extra blankets would do the trick. Big mistake, huge. The invasion started strong. Early victories captured cities, but the Russians were playing a long game. They retreated, burning everything in their wake, farms, villages, everything. It's called scorched earth, and it was designed to starve the French. Plus, remember those 600,000 soldiers? They needed a lot of food. Things were about to get a lot colder. The retreat. Imagine the worst winter you've ever experienced, then multiply it by 10. Temperatures below freezing, snow up to your knees, no food, no shelter. Soldiers were eating their horses, their boots, anything to survive. Disease was rampant, frostbite, amputation. The Grande Armée, once a proud symbol of French power, was now a desperate, dying mob. Their dreams of glory turned into a fight for survival. Of those 600,000 men, only a tiny fraction made it back. Napoleon's gamble had failed spectacularly. This wasn't just a military loss. It was the beginning of the end for his empire. Makes you wonder, is any ambition, any victory worth that much human suffering? Think you know about Gallipoli? Chances are you've only heard half the story. 1915, a beach in Turkey. What was supposed to be a quick strike turned into a 9-month nightmare. World War I, trenches, stalemate, brutal, right? The Allies were desperate for a win. Churchill's plan: bypass the Western Front, attack the Ottomans at Gallipoli, knock them out of the war. On paper, genius. In reality, April 25th, dawn. Allied soldiers approach the beach. It's almost peaceful. Then all hell breaks loose. Machine guns, artillery. The water turns red. Many of those landing were young Australians, some barely 16, their training rushed, unprepared for the slaughter they faced. Bam, trench warfare. But not the mud of France. This is Gallipoli, dry, rocky, the sun beating down mercilessly. Dysentery, heat stroke, and the flies. Oh, the flies. One soldier wrote home, "The flies are so thick." Out of the carnage, heroes emerged. For the Turks, it was Mustafa Kemal, a brilliant young officer who held the line. His bravery at Gallipoli would make him a legend, paving the way for him to become the founder of modern Turkey. On the Allied side, there was John Simpson Kirkpatrick, the man with the donkey. Under heavy fire, he'd rescue wounded soldiers, carrying them to safety on his donkey. A true hero, remembered to this day. December 1915. After months of bloodshed, the Allies finally evacuated Gallipoli. The beaches, silent again, but forever scarred. The campaign was a failure, a devastating loss of life. But from this tragedy, something powerful emerged. For Australia and New Zealand, Gallipoli became a defining moment, shaping their national identity. The Anzac spirit, courage, mateship, sacrifice, was forged in that crucible of fire. What do you think? Was Gallipoli a pointless waste or a defining moment, however tragic? Let me know in the comments. And while you're there, hit that like button and share this video so we can keep exploring history's most important battles.